Great to be with you, and I want to thank you from this respect. Periodically, I do require a Tea Party fix. You see, what I deal with daily is so bloody depressing and aggravating, and I get out here in the district and see you folks once in a while, and you give me a little bit of enthusiasm. You give me a sense that somebody cares, somebody's willing to stand up and fight. You know, it comes to mind that we last month celebrated Mother's Day, and yesterday we celebrated Father's Day. There seems to be a misconception, though, running rampant in America and in California now, that mother and father mean government. Those are our authority. The preamble is being changed from we the people to being we the government. I was provoked the other day. In our library we have many books, but one of them is George Orwell's 1984. And I was moved to go back and start reading that again, along with the most recent Winston Churchill last line, or the last one of those books. But 1984, it seemed to be so incredibly absurd. But if you look at it and read some of its provisions today, ladies and gentlemen, it is chilling. And I was kind of encouraged to find out that, and it got to my attention because I read that Amazon all of a sudden is skyrocketing the purchases of 1984. Well, it is all about us. And it's full of pace in California. A couple of issues that I know that are on your minds: gun control, gun confiscation, criminalizing law-abiding gun owners. I made that point several times in the debate over these last few months in this deluge of bills, and there are 23 anti-gun bills now still alive in the legislature. Most of them will get to the governor's desk, and I predict in his inimitable way, Jerry Brown will sign a lot of them and he'll veto a few to show how reasonable he is. He will veto some. But ladies and gentlemen, up until this year, together, we have been able to defeat those bills consistently. Now, they're flowing right through the legislature. And I have observed to my colleagues, never before in the history of California have we more required guns to defend our person and property. Like today, because of Jerry Brown's AB 109 mass release of felons. They are everywhere, folks, and you've heard me talk about it before. I was in Los Angeles just last Friday trying to prepare the possibility of an initiative, because we're not going to get any bills passed. Now let me show you what it's kind of like about guns and my liberal colleagues. I've introduced a number of bills to fix AB 109, one of which is if you are a sex offender and you have an imposed condition of parole, you must wear an ankle monitor, and I, as chairman of the Board of Prison Terms for all those years, was responsible for imposing those special conditions. And I did it by the thousands, tens of thousands, unfortunately. Well, now, if you take it off, there's no problem. In fact, the parolees are taking their monitors off, taking them into the parole agent's offices, throwing them down on their desk and saying, what are you going to do? And agents have told me that. And there's no consequence. They pretty much can't do anything. I mean, the worst of the worst. If they did anything and had a revocation hearing, they do 90 days. During my years as chairman of the Board of Prison Terms, we could put them in 360 days. With no credit, no good time. You served every minute. Well, so in the Public Safety Committee, I actually call it the Criminal Committee in the Senate, they shot my bill down. Kind of wasn't a surprise. But the American Civil Liberties Union, who won't know when I wake up every morning, the guy comes up and testifies. And he said, look, these sex offenders have to take the monitors off when they go to job interviews. Now, I am generally a very respectful person, and I do not like interrupting. Whether it's O'Reilly or Hannity or whoever's doing the interrupting, I don't like it. But I turned to the audience and I said, what? Did you hear what that man said? Did you hear that? I said, I, as chairman of the board of prisoners, have dealt with tens of thousands of sex offenders. I surely do not know a whole lot of them that go to job interviews. But could that job interview be in a child care center, ladies and gentlemen? So I made my points, and I got into a bit of a debate in the committee with the chairman, liberal Democrat from a town called Berkeley. Oh boy. Well, anyway, I'm trying to argue with her and making my points, and she cannot refute the validity of my points. So what does she say to dismiss me and shut me up? She said, it's about guns. It's about guns. I said, Madam Chair, what are you talking about? This is about sex offenders and ankle monitors and our children. It's not about guns. Though guns might help us, protect us from people like that, Madam Chair. Excuse me. I think I've told you, have I not, about Chelsea King and Amber Dubois, the two 14-year-olds murdered by one John Albert Gardner in San Diego 5 years ago. And they're dead because a law I wrote, the sexually violent predator law, was not applied by the Department of Corrections, and because a regulation I wrote called the Robin Reagan regulation was not applied either. And Mr. Gardner, instead of being in custody, was out on the streets. So what is the answer now in this crime wave? It's about guns. And the Democrat people think that's the deal. It's all about guns. Our problem in society is guns. Well, another problem that we have in society is that there's not enough money in government. So we have to have more. So you just got a $45 billion tax increase, right? So, gee, shouldn't that satiate the insatiable appetite of government for more money?
Makes it more.
Gosh, no. You cannot believe how many bills to raise taxes are in play in the legislature. Oh, it's good enough. Some of them are going to be defeated. I'm glad of that. But some of them are going to pass. There's one that's moving right along now, ACA 8, that says your local governing body by 55% can pass a tax increase. Now that's Jerry Brown's phase 2 of a realignment. Realignment, the dumping of all these responsibilities on counties. Phase 2, ladies and gentlemen, and then I actually fleshed this out with the governor in committee and got him to say this was phase 2. Now since then they've never referred to phase 2 again, but this is what it is. All this is now dumped on your counties. Then the state within 3 years will say, well, we don't have the money, tough times, we need to spend it on something else. So you go to your local taxpayers, supervisors, and get the money to fund the mandated programs from your local taxpayers. Now, by the way, your taxes are not going to be reduced commensurate for that, because that money will still have to go to government for all these other wonderful things. That is the mentality. And what do we got in the Democratic Party as the conservative today? Jerry Brown. Ladies and gentlemen, he's getting kudos and credit for being the adult in the House. Well, did Jerry Brown take a stand, as I mentioned in debate, about a hard GAN spending cap? Is that a part of our budget deal? No. Is a proposition that's still lingering out there for a demanded reserve there? No. Not a part of this budget. And a lot of the welfare reform, some of which I first was an author of 30 years ago is being rolled back. That historic welfare reform, which was then called the GAIN program, changed the mentality of welfare significantly and substantially, way before Bill Clinton's ever did. And what did it accomplish? It changed the entire governing force of welfare from being dependence-based, because it had become from the Great Society. It was predated by the New Deal. New Deal through the Great Society, we became, if you need, you will receive, and government will provide. That was welfare. GAIN changed it. It was no longer dependence-based, it was empowerment-based, meaning what? If you have needs, we will help you. Get enough sufficient education to be able to get a job, and work skills to be able to be successfully employed and employable. Not a job, not even work for your welfare. Although you had to stay in the program, so in effect I guess you did. But you had to develop your skills and abilities. Last year in the budget, this is how crazy it gets. The Democrats are rolling that back. And I'm complaining about it. That they're now making it all dependence-based again. And you know what they said? They responded to me in committee and publicly and said, why should we train them to be employed and employable? There aren't any jobs, so let's get rid of it. No, that, you know, you shake your head saying, what? You know, I feel like I'm at the Mad Hyler Tea Party sometimes. What? Like the dude about the bracelet, a guy going to show up for a job interview. That is the reality of Sacramento today. I just was honored to be key speaker 2 weeks ago, 35th anniversary of Proposition 13, to some of the key people still supporting Howard Jarvis taxpayers. It was kind of an emotional thing for me because they pointed out that I'm the only one still around from the legislature, when I said, well, yeah, I guess I am, but Jerry Brown was too. And don't you remember the day after 13 passed, he became born-again tax fighter. Boy, he was on our side. Well, he isn't really, folks, and don't count on it. But it is what we have come to. Now, I was asked to talk about the fracking bill, okay? Boy, oh, there's a reform bill alive right now. There's only one of them, fortunately. And, you know, they say it just kind of, it's reporting, and you have to make accounts of when this is going to happen and under what circumstances. What it really is all about is permitting from the multiples of agencies who are recited in the bill, who already do interfere in the permitting an awful lot. But it gives them even more demand and authority to coordinate the permitting and the control. Now, do you think that's going to mean that any fracking is going to occur? No. And it empowers anybody that lives within 150 feet, and I think it's 150 feet of where that will occur. So they can initiate an action and demand a bunch of evidence about that, which means every single person is going to litigate. There won't be any. So here's what the fundamental point is. Our energy policy in California has been, and now is even more so, the same as our water policy. And that is a sharing of the scarcity. Not managing supplies, a sharing of the scarcity. Hence the fight that I'm going up in the Klamath to stop the 4 dams from being removed on the Klamath. The fight I'm trying to survive in the legislature to get $3 billion to build a dam, hopefully Sites Reservoir. But no, we want to share the scarcity. Cap and trade. Wow, you know, that's going to fix all of the environmental stuff. It's a great free enterprise way to do business. You know, you sell, you buy and sell and trade your credits. Little funny story about that. Governor Brown has taken $500 million of those auction proceeds to what? Balance the budget. To pay for the current profligate spending from the carbon tax. Oh, wow. Well, there's a little bit of an economic problem. I told them I don't think even Ward Kynes could have come up with this one. You see, we've got 500 million built into the budget, but so far in 2 auctions, we have accrued 250 million. So, that doesn't seem to add up. How do you lend 500 and you only got 250? Oh, well, we're going to have other auctions. Well, said, I sure don't know any banks that work that way. California does. Yeah, that's in the budget, just passed the other day. Oh, we did have a victory, though. Senator Steinberg, and I do compliment him for this. You know, I've been the conscience of the legislature about the procedures and the budget, and you have to have a process and open hearing and time to review and the ability to read the bills and the budget and everything else. Well, he stuck up for us last Friday saying we'd get 24 hours. 24 hours. Now, I praised him. That was great. Is that enough? No. But that was something. And he stuck to it for that last Friday and last Saturday when we were dealing with it. We could still invoke that. Or, excuse me, last Friday. Saturday was too late to invoke it. But we could have done that. So that was kind of neat. That was some progress. Now, why? Well, finally, the media started getting it, that that's sort of a problem. And they begun to write about it. They haven't even written about it heretofore. I'm very pleased. Now, some of them couldn't quite bring themselves to mention me by name, but that's okay. I've certainly got their attention, and they've been listening. And they started to write a little bit about it's not good. Now, isn't it infuriating? And I made this point yet again in the budget just the last 3 weeks. These legislators, Democrat and Republican, and this was the full budget hearing of the Budget Committee to pass the budget to the floor, okay? So we have this hearing, which is nothing but an informational hearing. You can't offer amendments. This year we did vote. Last year we didn't even vote. The Budget Committee didn't even vote on the budget. It just went right to the floor. So what a great victory. But I said, toward the end of my remarks, I turned to the audience, about 200 in room 4203, and I said, I am not speaking to my colleagues up here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm speaking to you in the audience and all of you that are watching. This is what your legislature has become. We have no legal language before us today, which is all that counts. We don't have the language of the bills. We have a lot of papers describing the concepts that we will discuss briefly, but which we don't have any ability to change. We can't offer any amendments. And a lot of this got changed between the budget subcommittees and here by elected members? No, but by staff who just did it because they could. How do you committee chairs feel about that? What power do you have? Your staff in the dark of night can change the language. Well, God love him, he didn't do it this year, but last year Senator Rod Wright, a Democrat from Los Angeles, really raised heck about it. How did this get in? My committee didn't consider it. My committee did not put that in. How did that get in there, Mr. Chairman? At least some became righteously indignant. That's kind of what we've come to in your legislature. I'm always the insufferable optimist, though, folks, that we can bring it back, that we can come back, and we have to do that. Why do we have to do it? For us? Well, to a degree. But I'm not on the battlefield again, nor have I been all these years, for me or now. It's about our grandchildren. What sort of lives are they going to have? What kind of country, what kind of freedoms are they going to have? Remember that famous last word that William Wallace yelled out in Braveheart? Freedom. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're giving it away. And it's on us. We don't fight back. You do. A lot do. But not enough do. The entitlement society that swept Barack Obama into another term. The entitlement mentality. You owe me. It is mine. We have got to change that, ladies and gentlemen. really scary.